Hey everybody, this is Carl White broadcasting from the communications room here in the secret headquarters of the Mortgage Marketing Animals / Freedom Club. And you are listening to Loan Officer Freedom, #1 podcast in the world today for loan officers. That's pretty cool, Kristin. #1. I'm just, I'm a very grateful, very humble guy, but who would have thought when we started this that literally and gosh, I don't know how to say this. Well, I'm not saying this to be any kind of rude or anything, but like #2 is distant. Like the listeners here have forwarded this to their friends and shown us some love and given us great reviews. And of course, when you do that, all the search engines, start sending traffic. So we are very grateful to be in the position we are today. And Kristin, it was all coming up to the day that they knew that one day Carl would be talking with Kristin Simpson. And that's what the last 20 years have been leading up to is today. Good to see you, Kristin.
I love it. Good to see you too, Carl.
So Kristin and I worked together and we came up with a topic for this week. Okay. See, there I go. Taking you, Kristin came up with a topic and I said, man, that's a great topic. So the topic is making warm and fuzzy calls and avoiding cold calls. And so the idea behind it is when we do our phone calls, how can we make the calls so they're warm and fuzzy and not cold? But I have to tell you though, Kristin, before we even start this though, that I have made cold calls. And I've made a fortune, like literally on cold calls. I made my first $1 million as W-2 income, making cold calls because I didn't know any better. I didn't know of another way. And what you and I are going to talk about today is perhaps a better way to do it. Not foo-fooing the cold calls because they do work. I mean, they do. But how do we make an even better way, a little bit more of a cool way, and maybe a little, I don't know, what's the word, easier?
Yeah. Warm them up a little bit.
Warm them up a little bit. So let's take the stance on this one for today, Kristin. I think we ought to take the stance of, hey, I'm a new loan officer or new-ish, or I've been doing nothing but refis for the last couple of years, and I'm getting into the purchase game. And Kristin, if I'm getting in the purchase game and I want to drum up some business, what's the first thing I should do? So what's one of the first things that we do here, Kristin?
We're going to do Thor's Hammer. We are going to get a list of qualified realtors in our area. We're going to get a list of realtors by production. We're going to sort them. So we're looking at those that are qualified, meaning they're doing 8 or more buy-side transactions a year. And we're going to create our Thor's Hammer list of 30.
Yeah. So just as an FYI, if you're kind of new to us, Thor's Hammer is just a cutesy little name that I came up with many, many moons ago. And it's exactly what Kristin just spelled out. It's where we call real estate agents to get referrals. Because, we found there's nothing wrong with going consumer direct, I guess, Kristin. The problem with that I found when I went consumer direct, and I have done that, I've spent literally hundreds of thousands of my own personal dollars marketing and Facebook ads for consumer direct. And I've done it and it's done okay, but not near as okay as the real estate agents. The problem with going consumer direct is that once I close that loan, I'm fired. Like there's no more loans coming from. Oh, sure. They'll give me a handful of referrals every couple of years or so, their friends, family, and coworkers. And those work out just fine. But I found if I go after the real estate agents, I don't get one deal. I get dozens of deals, from that one agent. So I do one set of tasks, no easier, no harder than going consumer direct. But on the consumer direct, I get one and done. Whereas with a referral partner, I've basically like dug a oil well that's a gusher that keeps, sending loans to me. So I've always preferred the real estate version just for that reason, because I'm real big into, leveraging and how do we close a bunch of loans in a short amount of time, and finding a source of loans is way better than going out with a metal detector looking for, rings on the beach, one at a time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So you were asking me, like, what was the original question you were wanting to ask me on this episode? It was like, how do we warm them up, or do we ask your question?
Yeah, so I've been talking to a lot of loan officers, and we're talking about the Thor's Hammer list of 30 and getting it ready and creating it. And we've got our 3 different buckets. We've got our tilapia, our tuna, and our whales. And you and I have talked about cold calls. We've done them. I've done them. You've done them. But also, some people, that's a real huge thing, making a cold call. Is there any way to warm these up a little bit? And then I was listening to Renee Rodriguez on Loan Officer Breakfast Club a couple mornings ago, and it really got me thinking about what can we do to warm up these calls a little bit. I mean, we're leaning into our circle of influence. Of course, that's a great way to warm up the calls. Asking our friends, our family, our coworkers, hey, if you had to sell your house tomorrow for top dollar, who would you call? Because that's an even warmer call to make. And we're going to get a name of a real estate agent. We're going to look up their production, see if they fit our buckets, fill them with those first. But what other ways can we warm up these buckets a little bit?
So I think we have to do a couple things here first. So number one, we got to be careful that we don't spend all of our time trying to warm up a list rather than just picking up the phone and calling them. Yeah. And we have to be careful. So I like this question, and yes, we're going to talk about some ways to make that happen. But we have to be careful that we don't go, well, soon as I warm up the list, then I'll call. Soon as I blank, then I'll do it. We have to be careful. That's not, have you heard the term creative avoidance, Kristin?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Explain what creative avoidance is.
Well, we're going to find other things to do instead of doing the thing that we should just do in the first place. Like, we're creatively come up with in our mind with things that we should do first.
Yeah. And man, I got a master's degree because I can make these phone calls extremely, like, I can put 32 steps in front of the phone call. And I've done that. Right. And then I found, if I just pick up the phone with the Thor's Hammer script, which we'll give to, our listeners on the call, we'll give them to you, right? No catch, no credit card, no trial or anything like that. We'll give them to you. And the one thing I have to tell you that, like, with the scripts that we use with Thor's Hammer or calling the referral agents or getting referrals from agents, this isn't something that you try. Like, gee, I wonder if this works. Let me try it. It works, yes. Right? I mean, and again, I say this very humbly and very gratefully. My branch, my team last year, right? These are not people that I coach. This is my own personal team. I work for a mortgage company. I'm a non-produced branch manager, and I got this large team. I need to write down the exact number, but it was like 8,700 loans last year. So we average, 8,700 divided by 12, whatever that is. But it seems like some months are as slow as like 550 loans. Some months are like 800 loans for the month, right? For the month. And all the, like, on these things that we give on the podcast and the things we give on the Loan Officer Breakfast Club, the things we give in our coaching, these aren't theories. These aren't ideas. This is what I did to build an empire, an 8-figure that I make each year. Yeah. Empire is nothing but these things that we share. So when I bring this up, somebody said, well, I'm thinking about trying it, Carl, to see if it works. And I go, oh, dude, it works. Right. This is something that I heard about, or I thought, I wonder if this would work. This is what we've been doing for the last 20 years. And we've changed it as we've improved it as time goes on and put in new tools. But this is a very effective thing that works. So we have to be careful that we're not doing creative avoidance and let me warm up the list, then I'll call. So I'll recommend pick up the phone, use Thor's Hammer, and start making the calls. Now, to answer your question, yes, there's some things I can do to definitely warm it up. So what's some ways, Kristin, you think we could warm up a list? Like, if you're going to warm up this list and you're getting ready to call real estate agents, what's some things that we could do? What's one thing? Pick one thing.
I would like them on social media first.
I like that. So, well, not first. in addition to.
In
So
addition,
while I'm calling, like somewhere around week 2 or 3, is so Richard Smith taught me this one, is you have to be careful. And Kristin, when I say you, I'm going to talk to you as a loan officer. Okay.
yes.
So when I say you, the word you is a loan officer or branch manager. You, Kristin, and our listeners that are listening, God knows, do not go on Facebook and start liking all these people. That
Right.
is a horrible use of time. We can get a VA to do that for $5 an hour, where you give them a list of 1,000 agents in your area that are closing 8 buyer sides or more, and say, "Hey, VA, go in here and add them on as my friends." Awesome. I think that's a wonderful thing. And oh, by the way, while they're doing that, you're making the phone calls, because if you wait on the phone calls, I can go in there, because I see a lot of loan officers doing this, where, man, they're all over social media. They got 5,000 likes and all that stuff, and they're broke. They're not closing any loans because they never actually picked up the phone and asked for the business. So you got to pick up the phone and ask for the business. So I think social media is a really good thing. It is. The other thing we can do is we can run Facebook ads, right? So we get that qualified list of real estate agents, and we upload that list into Facebook, and then we start running ads in Facebook to those real estate agents. And those ads would really be nothing more than the things that we see loan officers and real estate agents posting on Facebook already. Woohoo, another closing with Kristin Simpson and her awesome husband. Here's the farm that they bought, and here's their 2.3 kids in the background, the unicorn, doing leaps in the background and stuff like that, and doing a post like that, and then run that post so that the 1,000 qualified agents that are closing 8 buyer sides or more per year in my area now see a weekly post from Carl, another successful closing. So I think that's a fine
effect.
Yeah, that's exactly. I call it. That's exactly. I call it the Oprah. I'm a huge Oprah fan, so it's the Oprah effect.
Yeah.
So that, like, if I got a phone call, and by the way, if Oprah's ever listens to this, if I ever got a phone call from Oprah, I don't care what I'm doing, I'm dropping everything. I'm going to take that call. I've been a huge Oprah fan since her early days. Just remarkable what that lady's accomplished from where she came from. I love, small town girl makes good type stories. A hero's journey. She's the pinnacle. But the point is, if Oprah calls, of course I'm going to take that call. Even though I've never spoken to her, she doesn't know who I am. I would take that call above all others. I can't think of any call I'd take rather than that, including, this is not a ditch, whoever the president is. I just love Oprah. And we can have that same effect, so that when we're making the phone calls to the real estate agents, and you say, "Hi, I'm Kristin Simpson," and they go, "Kristin, I know you. I know your name. Like, you're everywhere." And it's like, nope, I'm just everywhere you look, because I'm running ads, not targeting every real estate agent, but just those 800 or 500 or 300 or 1,300 of qualified ones that are closing 8 buyer sides or more here in my local area, and running those ads to them. Maybe I'm going to teach a class somewhere for real estate agents. Maybe I'm doing a happy hour or something like that. I can run those Facebook ads, and those are effective. They are, and they work. They do, but not without the phone call. So if I'm going to run those ads and not pick up the phone, save your money. I have literally spent over $1 million of my own personal dollars, not our coaching members, of my own personal dollars, advertising my own personal stuff. And I can tell you, Facebook ads work. They're very effective, but you got to target the right people, and you have to have the right message. And I'm going to tell you right now, the general public or the consumer is not the right target. I have not found anybody that's successfully doing that well. But when you target like real estate agents, I think that works. But again, we got to call in addition to, and preferably first, like we start calling right away, because I'll get some yeses on the calls before I ever run a Facebook ads. And so we just have to be careful that we're not creating the creative avoidance. Does that make sense, Kristin?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. I think a lot of people struggle. Well, gee, Carl, when I call the agent, like, I got to bring something of value. And I think that's where people really struggle with, and I know I have, in my past, so it's going to get a little personal here, of like self-worth. It's like, if I'm getting, if I'm getting ready to get on the phone call with, top real estate agent Kristin Simpson, say, and I go, well, gosh, who am I to be talking to Kristin? I got a little the imposter syndrome is what I've heard some people call it.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing, is I'm not worthy of speaking to Kristin because she's so successful and I'm just little old me. And so I think we have to get over that worthiness piece of it and to understand the thing I bring of value isn't I'm going to teach them how to build their business. Because one thing that we have to keep in mind that on these agents, Kristin, we're calling the ones that's already knocking out of the park. This is the ones that are closing 8 buyer sides or more in the last 12 months. They don't need my help to be successful. They're already successful,
Yes.
And it's not that you and I, like if I was calling you, it's not that you and I couldn't brainstorm on stuff and share ideas back and forth. I think that's a great idea. And I do that like literally all the time. Hell, I do it for a living, right? I do it all the time. But I think that I'm not going to use that as my carrot to attract them because they're already successful. So that's a very good script. If I'm talking to a brand new agent that's got nothing going on and they can't give me any referrals, calling them up and saying, hey, I'm going to help you build your business, they're all in, right? I'll get a ton of those. But now I'm really busy, but I'm not being effective.
Yeah.
I'm going to be effective to talk with agents that already has a lot of closings going on. And they don't need Carl's help to be successful. They're already successful. Does that make sense?
100% it does. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I would say the same thing on these things like, well, gosh, should I do a happy hour? It's like, well, of course. Before I make the calls, no, after. Do I teach classes?
Mm-hmm.
I think if you want to, that's a wonderful thing to do. Not everybody wants. If you don't want to, don't. If you do, I think it's a wonderful thing to do after you make your phone calls. So one of the things that you would ask me about is like, hey, Carl, when you make that first phone call, like what is the carrot?
Mm-hmm.
Are you calling them up saying, hey, I'm going to help you build your business? Or do I talk to them about an open house that I'm willing to sponsor? Or do I call them up and ask them, hey, I'm doing a class. Would you like to attend? Or I've got this cool widget, like Agent Mastermind or HomeBot or something. Do I use that as a subject? I don't think so. I have found the best script that we've used, and this has been tested by, when I say thousands of loan officers, like literally thousands of loan officers, is the old, I think you're awesome. I'd like to treat you to a cup of coffee so you can tell me more about how awesome you are. Because I'm convinced, Kristin, that you, me, and everybody else on this call, our favorite subject is what, Kristin? What's our favorite subject?
Ourselves.
It is, and as humble as we like to be and like that, well, not me. It is, Kristin, if I was to ask you about the, where y'all live up there and what's it, the country and, do you have any animals up there? And, what do the kids do on the weekend up there and where you guys are at? Or how was your last vacation? What'd you guys do? I mean, that's what you want to talk about. Me too, and me too.
Yeah.
And so what's that?
Yeah, no, I was talking to somebody and they said to me, it ain't that deep. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. It ain't that deep. People like to talk about themselves.
They do. And I just find that that's the best thing to talk about. And like, if I called you up and say, hey, Kristin, I've heard great things about you and I'd like to treat you to a cup of coffee to hear about how you got started with all this, or maybe you could give me some advice on you could help me out and give me some advice on going forward and how'd you get it so everybody knows your name and you're so successful. And then if you respond back, well, Carl, I've already got a loan officer. I go, well, of course you do, Kristin. Who wouldn't want to work with Kristin? This is not about that. I just want to meet with you to find out, like, how'd you get to be so successful, and like, what does your team look like, and what does a day in the life of Kristin look like? What does a week look like?
I always like to think there had to be a really cool story there, because nobody goes to college and majors in becoming a realtor. So there's a life event that occurred there that got them into this position, right?
Man, isn't that the truth? I've never heard that. but you're exactly right. What's the story? I tell you what, though, we actually have a friend of ours, they actually do. I just found this out like in the last couple years. They actually do have college degrees on being a realtor. Did you know that?
I know, I really didn't.
So we have a very dear mutual friend whose daughter did that, and she's doing extremely well. So Diane, our own little Diane Ranger, her daughter Tabitha went to University of Central Florida and majored in being a realtor. And now she's one of the, I think she run like rookie of the year, like her first year. And she's going door to door with some of the top agents who've been doing this for the last 20 years. So
that's fantastic. I swear it didn't exist when I went to college.
She's the only one I ever heard of, that did it. So, but you're right. There's always a great story.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're calling these people, so can we warm up the list? Sure. But after we call, not before we call. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. Let's just do the thing that needs to happen.
Yeah. And it's just, it's all about call reluctance. I mean, 100%. Because I can tell you right now, whoever makes the most calls and asks for the most business will close the most amount of loans, period. I don't care if they're not as scripted or if they're not as, quote, smooth on the phone, if they're older, if they're younger, if they're big, if they're small, if they're like hair down to their ankles or no hair at all, talk with a twang, don't talk with a twang, man, woman, nothing to do with it. I'm 100%. I'm not just saying that because it sounds right. It's been my experience. Some of the most successful people I've seen as loan officers were the ones that I would have thought there is no way in the world this is going to work out for this person because of insert in obstacle. But whoever made the most phone calls closed the most amount of loans, just period. So I think a big part is just overcoming the call reluctance and finding out, I learned this from Kevin Gillespie. He taught me people are not near as mean and bad and ugly as I might put them up to be in my head. And when I say ugly, I mean, mean spirited. Yeah. That somehow I got it that I'm going to call Kristin and say, hey, Kristin, I've heard great things about you. I'd love to treat you to a cup of coffee. And you're going to just lay it in me, just tell me how obnoxious I am and I'm the worst salesman ever. And you can't wait to get off the phone and call everybody in the Realtors Association about, what a lame intro call I made. And that's all just made up stuff that just has like literally never happens to anybody, like ever. And I think
are we worried about getting a no? Maybe that's it. We're worried about the no before we even open our mouth and have the conversation. But at the end of the day, nothing bad happened. We didn't lose our job. We didn't get a bad reputation. There's only loans we're not going to get because we didn't pick up the phone and try to have a conversation.
You're dead on. That's like, again, I learned so much from Kevin Gillespie. He and I say he and I, he's the one that wrote 95% of it. It's just, I added some little flavor to it here and there, but there's this great book. It's Overcoming Call Reluctance for Loan Officers. Overcoming Call Reluctance for Loan Officers. And man, one of the things that he taught me in there is, first of all, that people are not near as mean and bad as I think they are. And number two, the no's just don't hurt. Like it's like he said in the book, he says, hey, Carl, when you're calling to meet that agent. So Kristin, you're calling to meet an agent. What's the best that can happen? What's the best case scenario?
They book an appointment. We got a coffee meeting.
All right. And you got a coffee meeting.
Or they give me something right on the phone. There we go. Just right off the bat.
Perfect. All right. So either A, they meet you for coffee, or B, they give you a referral right off the bat, which that happens. And so like, let's say if they meet you for coffee, what's the best possible scenario that could come from that? Like what's the best, you meet them for coffee. What's best case scenario?
We hit it off. We have a great conversation and we wind up working together.
That's right. And so let's define working together as, remember, these are the qualified agents. Let's say a deal a month, one, not 10, not two, one. let's say you make $2,000 per closing, right? Some more, some less, but let's just say two. That means that coffee appointment, if it works out, best case scenario is about $24,000 now of profit to you. Do 4 of those, it's 100 grand. Do 8 of them, it's 200 grand. Numbers get crazy. So that's best case scenario. Kristin, now let's take the other side. I go to call up. What's the worst case scenario? What's the worst that can happen on that phone call?
They don't book an appointment. They say no, thank you.
That's right. So what's the best case scenario? $100,000. What's the worst case scenario? They say no. And so I think it really just comes down to, are you willing to risk a no for the gain of 25 grand? Mm-hmm. And I'll take that gamble all day long. I mean, it's
twice on Sundays.
It is like the no's are not that bad. And the yeses are. And by the way, I have found, like, when somebody says no, I used to think, Kristin, they were saying, no, Carl, I don't like you. No, you're an idiot. No, you're not smart enough. No, you're not popular enough. No, you're not whatever. Like, that's all the crap that ran in my head. Right.
Right.
But I found out when they say no to me, all it really means is they're already working with, say, somebody else. And if somebody's already working with you, Kristin, hell, me and a crowbar the size of Texas, I'm not going to get them away from you, because you're awesome, right? So I look for the ones that something's happened, something's not right. The loan officer's not following up. Like, there's something wrong with the relationship, which I find is true about 25% of the time. So about 1 out of 4. Yeah. So about 1 out of 4, something's wrong. Something happened recently that they're willing to meet with for coffee. And Kristin, we got this thing, hey, if they meet me for coffee, how likely are they to refer to me? We got this saying, and it's said kind of tongue in cheek, and obviously I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but it's meeters or cheaters. Yeah. Meeters or cheaters. That if they'll meet with me, they're willing to cheat on their current loan officer. Something's not right. Mm-hmm. And I love that. What I got virtually nothing to lose and 25 grand to gain. At least 25 grand. Some real estate agents, depending upon the loan amount and how much I'm going to get paid. I've had real estate agents worth $50,000, $75,000 for the year that I profited from our relationship. And I never paid for Zillow. Did we do things like Kristin, if you and I are working together and you say, hey, Carl, could you print some flyers up for me? Well, of course I would. Mm-hmm. Or if you said, hey, can you help me out with this? As long as it's legal, ethical, moral, my compliance says yes, of course I'll help them out with stuff. I just don't go into it like with that. That's not my lead.
Right.
My lead is just hanging out with you. Does that make sense?
It 100% does. The art of conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about? Did we kind of cover this, do you think? You know what? I had somebody. Maybe I shouldn't mention this one. I had somebody.
You've already mentioned it now.
Well, I can edit. See the wonderful. See, the things that go through the podcast are the things that went through the filter. So there was. Well, I don't want to, because I don't want to be uncool. So I was on a Facebook group the other day, and the guy said, "Hey, I don't want to be calling realtors. I don't want to be calling realtors on Monday morning, because they're busy with all the leads they got from open houses and from offers they might have coming in." And I was like, my God, man, that's exactly when you want to call them. Yeah, let's wait until they get all those leads off their plate, somebody's working on, and then we'll call them. My God, call them. But see, that went. I knew what that was. That was a self-worth on his part. Yeah. That, saying I'm not worthy, which is not true. I disagree with him. But in his mind, I'm not worthy of calling these people on Monday when they have leads, because somebody else deserves those leads. Somebody else deserves to get to close those loans. I don't. So there's no need for me to call on Monday. I'll wait until they have no leads, and then I'll call, because that's what I'm worthy of, no leads. You know what I'm saying?
I do. If you're not calling, somebody else is.
Yeah. And so I think I think the Mondays is like on our Thor's Hammer. Mondays is the day that we call on, and it's because they were working over the weekend. And yeah, yeah. You don't like now. Let's say I got one for you. Let's say I'm brand new, right? I'm a brand new loan officer. And on our daily success plan, Kristin, that you help walk people through all the time, that on Tuesday I'm updating everybody on the file and asking for the business. On Wednesday, I'm calling my past database. On Thursday, I'm calling my pre-approved and lookings. Kristin, I'm brand new. I don't have a past database. I don't have any pre-approved looking. I'm just getting started. What should I do? And I think the answer to that is do Thor's Hammer or calling the agents. You mentioned at the beginning, we start off with a list of 30 agents that we're calling on. Mm-hmm. And we do that on Monday. I would get a separate list, not the same, a separate list. And I would probably put that on Wednesday. And that way I'm calling on Monday. I got Tuesday to meet them for coffee or maybe do follow-up calls. Mm-hmm. And then I'd call a separate list of 30 on Wednesday. So I've got all day Wednesday and all day Thursday to meet with them and follow up with them. And so I'd call them twice as many, because the whole idea on this Thor's Hammer and calling on real estate agents is to get what we call our Focus 40. And our Focus 40 is 40 agents that are referring to us on an ongoing basis. Once I've done that, Kristin, once I've got my Focus 40 list, like this calling of agents and trying to warm them up before I call and all this other stuff, I mean, all this stuff just goes out the door, because once I've got my Focus 40, I'm kind of done. I'm going to get, my business is very solid now, and I don't need to go, once I'm married, I don't need to go date. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So on my Focus 40, once and that's probably a bad example, but once I'm married, so to speak, or have a working relationship with these 40 agents, I don't need to go date anymore.
Right.
Because I've got them. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And it's a numbers game. The more coffee appointments we go on, the more people we talk to, the quicker we're going to get, the quicker our speed of implementation is with this, the quicker we're going to get to that Focus 40 that we're looking for.
So I got a question for you, Kristin. What do you think, and maybe something we already covered here, like when you're and I should have done a much better job introducing you at the very beginning. So Kristin is one of our one of our coaches. She does strategy calls with loan officers, and she is fantastic at it. So you have an uncanny knack for identifying people's strengths, helping them focus on that, and putting together an individualized plan for the individual loan officer on, hey, working on things that's actually going to get me loans. And oh, by the way, by your assessment, I'm talking with me, I bet you're going to enjoy doing these things too, right? Right. It's not doing things that's done cool. So when you're talking with loan officers across the nation, and you mention phone calls and they give you pushback, what's the typical pushback? Is there any, do you find some common pushbacks? Like, what are the pushbacks, and how do you help them overcome those obstacles?
Well, oftentimes when I'm talking to somebody, and you kind of hit the nail right on the head a little earlier when you said, hey, I don't have a past client database. I don't have any loans in underwriting. I don't have any pre-approves and looking. So what can I do? To Thor's Hammer list of 30, 100%. But I also say, yeah, you do have a database. It's called the contact list in your phone. Do every single one of your friends, family, all of your contacts know what you do? Why wouldn't you want them to use you as their loan officer versus somebody else? Does every single person know? And usually I get no, probably not everybody. Well, there's a first order of business as well.
All right. Well, let me ask you this, Kristin. So I don't have a past database, so I'm going to call my friends. Gosh, is it cool if I call my friends to tell them I'm a loan officer now? Is that, I don't want to be weird or anything. Is it okay for me to do that? Do you hear that from time to time?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't you want them to use you? versus somebody else who doesn't know them and doesn't have their best interest at heart.
Well, you got me there. Yeah, let's have a stranger helping them with their biggest financial decision they'll ever make.
Yeah. I mean, I heard somebody say this somewhere and it really resonated with me. We call a financial advisor, we call a wealth management advisor to help us with our retirement. Well, why wouldn't we look at a loan officer as being our debt management advisor, right? There's so many different ways to write this and do it. Why wouldn't you want them to use you?
So, Kristin, I just finished listening to this podcast. I'm going to take my first action first. What's my first action first?
Get a qualified list of realtors in your area.
How am I going to do that?
You're going to call anybody who you're friends with who has access to the MLS, a realtor friend, somebody at a title company, and you're going to ask for a list of realtors. You're going to ask for a list of realtors by production. And if it's going to take you more than 3-4 days to get it, you're going to pay for the list because time is money.
I like that. So, and where we pay for the list, do you use the same one that I use, the
qualifiedagentlist.com? Yeah, qualifiedagentlist.com.
Yeah. So a friend of ours, Richard Smith, has a service where it's qualifiedagentlist.com.
Correct.
Where you pay him, I think it's $797. Let's call it $800. You pay him $800. And you get a list of all the qualified agents in your area, and it's going to be at least 1,000. If there's not 1,000 qualified agents in your area, he starts drawing a bigger circle in the surrounding towns until you do have at least 1,000 qualified. Again, our definition of qualified is 8 buyer sides or more in the last 12 months. Because I tell you, I would say the 2 biggest mistakes I see people making their calls. Number 1, not making them. Yeah. Right, not making them. And I need to go build the farm before I milk the cows. I need to go do all this stuff. And I need to go make the list warm and fuzzy before I start calling them. And then number 2, calling a list of unqualified agents that don't have loans to refer to me or buyers to refer to me. And then I leave those meetings thinking, man, I had all these meetings. I meet with all these agents. I did all these happy hours. I went to all these open houses. I taught these classes to these agents. I didn't get any referrals. And it's because the agents that they don't have any referrals to give me. I've got more than one story of where I spent like much time like on one particular agent trying to get referrals. And then when I finally got smart enough to, or somebody told me about, the qualifiedagentlist.com, where I could get a list of qualified, and I'd look up those agents' productions that I was going after. Hell, they didn't have any deals to refer to me. So there was nothing wrong with my procedure. There was nothing wrong with my script. There was nothing wrong with me. It was like I was asking an oak tree for referrals. It's a great oak tree, but it's got no referrals to give to me. There's nothing wrong with me, and there's nothing wrong with them. We can be friends. I like them. We can hang out on the weekends. We can have a barbecue together, but they're not the people I need to be calling, asking for referrals, asking to meet for coffee because they don't have anybody. And that's going to be, by the way, about 94% of all agents are going to be unqualified. So if I just randomly grab agents, and I've learned, Kristin, even the ones with all the ads, and you go on Realtor.com and they got this page ad and everything like that. All that means is they had some money to buy an ad. It doesn't mean that they're successful already. And so making sure that you're calling on somebody that's doing at least 8 buyer sides or more, that's a mammoth thing to do right off the bat. So you're dead on with that. Yeah,
because we want the phone to ring as soon as possible. So we're only going to call on those who already have business for us.
Yeah. And I think the best thing about working with qualified agents is when I do my daily success plan and I do my activities and I do it with the right people, I do get referrals like everybody does. I do get referrals. And I do go to a closing, and I did put some money in my pocket. And I went, wow, that was kind of cool. Let's do that again. And so I get that positive reinforcement of I do this activity. I'm scared, but I did it anyway. But I put money in my pocket. Let's do it again and again and again and again. Whereas if I'm doing it and it's not pleasant and I'm not getting any referrals and I'm not getting any closings, it's like, this is a colossal waste of my time. Why do I need to be doing this? Nothing wrong with my procedure, nothing wrong with me. It's the people I'm calling on. Nothing wrong with them per se. They just can't refer me business because they don't have any business to refer me. So you have to make sure you have a qualified list to begin with for sure. So cool. Let's see. Let's just real briefly on the Thor's hammer, Kristin.
Mhm.
Do I call 1,000 agents? I get this 1,000 list, right? From Richard or whoever, like wherever I get it from, qualifiedagentList.com or some other place. I got this 1,000. Do I just start at the A's and just call all 1,000 like one at a time? Like how do I do this?
Well, I have a financial background, so I'm going to throw some financial terms, but diversify your portfolio a little bit, right? So we want 5 that we consider tilapia of our initial list of 30. Those are doing 8 to 11 buy sides a year. We want 20 tunas. They're doing 12 to 24 a year. And we want 5 whales, 25 or more a year on the buy side.
I like that. And is there any magic to the 30? Like, why not 130? Like, why the 30?
Well, in my opinion, we're going to put them on a 12-week program that they know nothing about. So people are going to be coming on and off this list at different times. It's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, I think you're right. When I first started, I put way too many on my list.
Yeah.
And the problem, I started getting yeses. Like in the beginning, I didn't get any yeses, and then I started getting yeses, and I had to start following up. And now I'm closing loans, and it's like now I'm busy doing that, and I dropped the ball on a lot of them because I was desperate, right? I mean, I was desperate. I had my own mortgage payment to make, and yeah, gosh, I remember that. And so I thought, well, I'll call on 200, right? And I did, and that worked okay for about 3 weeks. And then all the loans started coming in. I had to work those. And then people will say, hey, Carl, I thought you were going to follow up with me. I thought, what about that thing you said was going to do? And you said you wanted to reach back out and meet me again, or I haven't heard back from you. I just got so busy writing the loans. So that's why we found, like, if you've got any kind of business going on at all, start with a list of 30 and calling on for 12 weeks. If you literally have nothing going on, which we all did when we first started,
right, do
2 groups of 30. Don't do any more than that, though, because this does work. It's very, very, very effective, and you'll bite off more than you can chew. You can say, hey, that'd be a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have until you have it. So when you got when you got a little lemonade stand set up in a Greyhound bus full of thirsty football players all show up all at the same time, it's a problem. Like it is. And so yeah, don't bite off more than you chew. Any last words, Chris? So Kristin, I've listened to the podcast. I think I know what I need to do. I'm still afraid. What should I do?
Call us. Get on a strategy call. I'd love to talk you through it. I role play with people all the time on strategy calls. When they give me I'm not sure and I'm just uncomfortable, and I'm like, okay, let's just role play. I'll call you. You be the agent.
I like that. So a role playing, a loan officer, realtor role play. That's a great idea. If I want to do that, how do I? So there's no charge for that.
None.
So that's the way we roll around here, right?
Free.
And, yep. And what's that link? Loanofficerstrategycall.com.
Yep.
So loanofficerstrategycall.com. And in your it's going to add, when you go to that page, loanofficerstrategycall.com, it's going to ask you a couple questions to help myself and Kristin and Mike and Eric and Ralph. It'll help us prepare for your call.
Right.
And then it'll take you to a calendar. You'll pick a time and a day that works for you. And we'll do these role plays. I think that's a great idea. I think, I think when I've done some role plays, I have discovered the calls just go, like, I have all this garbage in my head about how bad it can go.
Yeah.
And it never does. Like I've never had somebody, like, literally, and Chris and I've made some calls, like, a lot. I've literally never had somebody, to tell me to, stick
go
my
pound sand.
Yeah, go pound sand. Better way of saying it. So I've literally never. I've had people say, "Hey, I'm busy." I've had people say, "No, thank you." I've had people say, "Hey, you can take me off your list." I've had that, right?
Yeah.
but I've never once had somebody be what I would call
Rude,
you know, yeah,
disrespectful. Yeah.
horribly disrespectful. You know,
Yeah.
I've never once had somebody start talking about my mom or anything like that. You know, so
Nobody told you a mom joke?
no, nobody ever told me a mom joke. So I think we covered everything. We covered okay, Kristen.
I think so. I
Was there
think so.
any question I should have asked you that I didn't?
I don't think so, Carl. I mean, that's it. I've heard you say it a million times. If you were to, someone wants to pick you up and drop you in a new city and you know nobody and you have no past client database, you're going to get a list of qualified realtors and just start doing Thor's hammer and setting meetings and having conversations.
Yeah,
Having conversations.
that's it.
We want to do
So
business with people we know, we like, we trust.
yeah, and so if you say, well, what do these calls sound like, and do a role play, set up a call with Kristen. Again, there's no charge. It's not a free trial or anything. Like we'll give it to you. I recommend when you do it, be on your laptop, because Kristen she might show you some things, or she might show you some scripts. You might do some screenshots. So be on a computer. I'd recommend not being on a cell phone. I mean, you could do it from a cell phone, I guess, but you're going to be way better off if you do it from a computer or a laptop, so you can do some screenshots.
Occasionally I have someone call me from their car and then they pull over and they're like, hold on, let me pull over. Because I love to show the Focus 40 tracker. How do we keep track of all this stuff?
Gosh, there's an episode right there.
Yeah, there's an episode.
Focus 40 tracker. Gosh, that's a great topic. Yeah, which is a great point. Yeah, don't be on your car driving down the road. Like this is a serious business. It's time to get serious. And these are some serious conversations on how to make a lot of money. And yeah, life is good. So loanofficerstrategycall.com.
Yep. We'll meet you where you are and we'll go from there.
Yeah, which is a great point too, whether you're brand new in the business or whether you're already closing 40 loans a month. You know, I have to tell you, I know we're running a little over here. You know, there's so many stories, but one of my favorites is our dear friend, Kristin Simpson. Man, so I'll never forget, I met her. She had never closed a loan. She was brand new to an area. She had just moved from from Kansas. She had just moved from Kansas down to a small town in Central Florida. Literally knew nobody, like nobody. I think they picked that area literally off of a dartboard kind of thing. Knew nobody, had never closed a loan before, and came to one of our 2-day events and said, I want to do this so bad. I can't stand it. I don't know what to do. And we simply mapped out Thor's hammer for her. Mm-hmm. And if I remember right, for the last 2 years, there might be 3 years now, she's been over $1 million W-2 income. $1 million.
Double comma club.
Double comma club. And in her case, it's not a list of 15 loan officers that work with her. Like that's from her production. Now she has a team of assistants, you know, to help her answer the phone and chase conditions and whatnot. But man, it wasn't that long ago. Man, I can still picture walking in and meeting me for the first time. In fact, the way I remember, a tear was running down her cheek, and it wasn't it was of, I want this so bad. I don't know. I can't stand it. And I want a better life for my family. And now she's got a beautiful lake house. She sends me pictures of her and the family out on the boat. And she's got 3 kids now. And man, those kids are growing up in a different world than what Kristen or I grew up. You know, that you're making $1 million W-2 income. It definitely gives some opportunities for you and the family, you know, so it's not too bad. And she did it by picking up the phone and making the Thor's hammer phone calls, making the realtor calls. And she knew nobody, and didn't have the funds, you know, to run Facebook ads or anything like that. She just picked up the phone. So pretty incredible. So, all right. Hey, we're way past due, but I could talk to you all day, Kristen. Thanks so much. I really appreciate the day we met you, and we're honored to have you join our team, or us to join your team, however you want to say it. It was a very good day. So I'm grateful. All the loan officers that you've helped. I know there's been literally hundreds and hundreds of them. We're very, very, very grateful that you blessed us with joining the team and helping people out. Thanks a lot, Kristen. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Carl. Likewise.
All right, gang. So loanofficerstrategycall.com, set it up. And hey, the other thing, if you think this episode will benefit some of your friends, the only thing we're asking is send this episode to 3 of your friends, 3, not 1, not 2, not 22, 3. So forward this episode to 3 of your friends. And if you're so inclined, give us a review, just an honest one. We like the 5 stars, but just an honest review. And if you send an honest review, take a picture of it and email us a picture of your review, even if it's good, bad, or ugly, right? It's all good. Like, we just want honest responses. Take a picture of it and email it to us at support@themarketinganimals.com, support@themarketinganimals.com. And I'll send you a print copy, hard copy of my newest book, Loan Officer Champions. And by the way, so Loan Officer Champions, it tells 10 different stories of loan officers that were overcome certain different challenges. And Kristin Simpson, our $1 million, the one we're just talking about, she's one of the loan officers in that book. So would love to send you a copy of that. So, all right, that's it. Hey, thanks again. We appreciate it, Kristin. I'll see you on the next episode where we talk about the Focus 40 trackers. Thanks again, everybody.
Love it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.